Hello everybody, welcome to Elite Wine TV.
Hello everybody, welcome to Elite Wine TV. Hello everybody, welcome to Elite Wine TV. I'm your host Mark Fusco here for another episode of the show, and we're on the third winery for the Texas wine tour that I did, and I got two wines from them. We're going to do both on the same show instead of having one each. We've got two wines from the Alamosa Wine Cellars, and it's one of the people that I've been following on Twitter for a little bit. They've been following me back. The funny little stories. I walk into the winery. Again, it's kind of another one of those middle of nowhere, but at least I don't have to take dirt roads to get there. But no cell service. Like even got on the highway, I couldn't get any cell service. But drive up there. There was getting to the tasting room. There was one other car there. This was actually on a Saturday. So one other car there. There was a couple in there. They were talking with somebody. I didn't know who it was. And there was another person in the wine tasting room to help me out. So I'm having her, go through the wines. I've tasted like a few of the wines. And then I'm like, I do this blog. She turns to the other lady and says, this is somebody with a wine blog. And they're like, wait a minute, who are you? And I tell them. And then she happens to call her husband and say, hey, one of your Twitter friends is here. So it was really cool to kind of run into them like that, kind of feel, hey, one of your Twitter friends. So you get Jim and Karen there, Jim and Karen Johnson, and so it was really a lot of fun to hang out with them for a little bit. So we're going to go into the wines. Another cool thing about that particular wine visit, I had meant to sit down with Jim and we kind of go over his stuff, but we just kind of were talking and we never got a chance to sit down. So Jim, next time we come up there, let's do kind of a sit down and get on camera and talk about some stuff. But the cool thing was that, first, Jim comes out with a beaker of grape juice, wine, and he's like, okay, it's time to guess the varietal. And let me say I didn't guess correctly, but I got close. But I was on the spot and I was all nervous, and there were other people in there, and we were talking about, here's the wine blogger, and, I've done my first level test and all that. And so, in like this kind of, I don't know, bit of nervousness, I say something, I forgot what I said it was. I think I called it Merlot or something like that. And I'm like, oh, Merlot. And he's like, no. And I said, okay, let's calm down. And this is kind of where, this type of thing and me taking notes and really making that association so that when I do a blind tasting again, that I'm not as far off as I was. So I decided, go with what it's not, like I was taught to do, and which I really haven't been able to do blind tastings, since the whole sommelier test. And I didn't even get to taste the wine back then. I just could smell it and listen to everyone's comments. So I guessed that it was Tempranillo, but it was a different Spanish varietal, Graciano. So at least I was close. The other cool thing was that I got to go back into the barrel room and do some barrel tastings. So anyway, so let's go ahead and get right into the wines. The first one we're going to do is the 2005 El Guapo. That roughly translates into the handsome one. Somebody who's usually is about a gentleman. Usually they're handsome, but it can also mean pretty. So, but generally it means you're very handsome, good looking. So, which of course that's me, El Guapo, as I will say sometimes. So 2009. Now this wine is a blend of Tempranillo, Monastrell, and Cabernet Sauvignon. The percentages of which are 90% Tempranillo, 5% Monastrell, and 5% Cabernet Sauvignon. because there's only 5% left. So another one of these winemakers that's like, listen, let's take some Spanish varietals and make some wines out of it. Okay, so more Tempranillo. Jim says that he was the first person to plant Tempranillo in the state. Ed Aller also had made that claim when I was visiting him. So they probably planted it the same year, or at least had the same idea to plant it. So let's go right off the bat. Let's take a look at it. So color, I'm going to call it medium. It's not really deep. If you angle it, granted, I don't have a nice white piece of paper to put it under, but it's almost that brickish color that I had with that Merlot, but we're going to call it a medium color. We're going to say it's not brick, but maybe more of a garnet, and it's clear. Almost every wine you're going to drink is going to be pretty clear. Most wines, because they go through a clarification process to get all the haze out of it, because Americans don't like cloudy wine. Or fining, or whatever you want to call it. All right, so let's get right into the aroma. I've got 2 wines to do. All right, so I'm getting kind of that, well, first of all, before you even try to identify it, it's, I'm going to say, kind of low in the aromas. I wouldn't say it's a closed nose, because I actually can smell stuff, but it's not like really coming out of the glass. No, we'll go with moderate. It's probably a little bit more moderate. We know it's a 2005, so in the wine world, that's going to be some age. It's not going to be youthful. Youthful is 1 to 3 years, so we're beyond that. And can I tell that off of the nose? Yes, and this is why it's not fruit forward. When it's more fruit forward, you're going to have it's going to be a little more youthful. When you start getting into the minerality, that's when some age happens. Okay, a little bit of knowledge there. All right, so I get a bit of smokiness. I feel like I'm at a barbecue. And again, we were talking earlier today, well, today being the 22nd of June, even though this episode is like a week from now, on the Somm chat with Rick Backus. I hope that's how you pronounce your last name. I don't know if it's Backus, Bacchus, Bacchus, but we'll say Backus, okay? And some other people on Twitter, and they were asking about some wines for barbecue. Tempranillo, my suggestion. Also suggested Merlot, but but there are some other wines out there. But I just piped in on that. But I feel like I'm at a barbecue, so I'm getting a little bit of that, some earthiness, not earthiness, but smoke, and some, I wouldn't say I would call it jamminess, but kind of dried fruit. A little bit of dried fruit on the nose. All right, let's go for the taste. So we're going to say it's a bit dry, medium-bodied, almost light, but medium-bodied. Acidity. It's got some good acid to it. I find it's kind of tart. A little bit tartness to it, and really it's low level on tannin. But I'm also going to say they're kind of soft tannins. Okay, it doesn't really. It's not a wine that goes out and hits you in the mouth. You know, it's it kind of buddies up to you a little bit. balance. Now, this is, of course, the big thing about balance between the alcohol, acid, tannin, and sugar. You've got some, I'm getting a little bit of the alcohol. The alcohol's at 13%. Just 13? Yeah, 13%. That's not too high for a wine, but I get a little bit, a touch of it, but nothing out of the ordinary. The acid, the tannins, I think they work a little bit well together. I think the acid's kind of a little bit high. I mean, kind of in conflict with the tannins. And the sugar, you know, it's dry, but there's a tad of sweetness. I mean, I'm going to say it's good. You know, in this book you have 3 choices: good, fair, and unbalanced. So, you know, hopefully almost all wine is good. Definitely a good balance. Flavor intensity, I find it's flavorful. Now, kind of like that Merlot from McReynolds, I get this tartness to it, okay? Which I know acidity tart. Kind of a tart like raspberry type of thing going on. I still get that smoke, and I still feel like I'm at a barbecue. Now, for me, the finish is kind of short. It doesn't really linger very much. It kind of you get that flavorfulness. You get a little bit of intensity of flavor, and then it just kind of disappears real quick. Definitely something I would pair with some food. Not something I would probably drink on its own, but I wouldn't say I couldn't. But I think I'd like to have, like, honestly, barbecue. I just keep thinking barbecue. Some barbecue pork, like a barbecue pork sandwich, a pulled pork sandwich. That's what I would want with this wine. Okay. It's not too spicy. It's got a hint of sweetness. It's got a bit of tartness to it. If you had a spicy barbecue sauce, I think that would work. And this is why I was talking about Tempranillo and barbecue. If it's spicy, you want something that's going to counteract the spiciness. And that's why I went, even with Merlot, if you got that little bit of fruit-forward Merlot. Tasty. All right, now let's move on to the next wine. This is the Palette 2007 from Alamosa Wine Cellars. This is also another blend of a few varietals. It's got, let me pour a little bit first. All right, so it has the following. It has Syrah, 67% Syrah, 18% Grenache. Though Jim kept saying Garnacha, and I meant to ask him if he feels that he wants to, like at the TechSom conference last year, there's a group of people that kind of want to push for using the Spanish word instead of the French word because it's a Spanish grape. So using Garnacha instead of Grenache. But anyway, so 18% Grenache, 13% Mourvedre, and 2% Cinsault. A little bit of Cinsault in there. All right. Oh, I didn't price this one. This was $18 at the winery. This is the 2007 vintage, and it's $20 at the winery. All right. So let's take a look at the color real quick. Okay. It's kind of similar in color with the Guapo. It's a little bit lighter. It's not pale, but definitely a medium color. I'm going to go with, again, a garnet color, clear, and let's go through the aromas. And this is why I bought this wine. I really like it. Oh, I didn't score this one. Guapo, I'd put as an 88. Forgot. All right. The palette. Okay, on the aroma, I find it's aromatic. It is a 2007. It technically is youthful, 1 to 3-ish years, but it doesn't. It's not really very fruit forward. At least not for me. So I would say some age. Now aromas. We talk about sense of place in a wine. This smells like Texas. It smells like Texas. It smells like, I don't know, I want to say ragweed, but it smells like being out in the vineyard or being out in the field somewhere. It's not that grassy smell that you get from a Sauvignon Blanc. You know, you smell the dirt, like smell the dust. It's like you're outside and you're out in nature. You've got the green, you got the leafy smells, the wood, live oak trees, cedar trees, mesquite trees, maybe not mesquite, but like you're walking down the a dirt trail. It smells like Texas. Okay, I know everywhere else has these things, but just I've lived here for so long that it just makes me think of being out in the country, being out on being more out not in a wooded part of Texas, but out in like a field somewhere. So you've got the mixture of grasses, of flowers, of the dirt. You got the trees. Any trees that are around. Not necessarily an open field, but you've got trees around. So I mean, it's kind of got it's all minerality. I mean, it's earthiness. But I really feel like I'm just outside somewhere. If any of that makes sense. I got to really wrap this up because we're about 15 minutes now. Dry sweet. I'm calling it off dry a little bit. No, dry. Medium body. I'm going to call the acid on this not tart. I'm going to call it kind of smooth. Kind of medium tannins, but again, they're soft. Again, they don't reach up and hit you in the mouth. Now with this, good balance, flavorful. It's not very fruit forward. It's more earthy. But I do get that kind of barbecue type of feeling of it, like a barbecue sauce type of thing. On the aroma, what I wanted to say was it was kind of like bright red fruit. For any type of fruit on the aroma, and I get that also on the flavor. Some bright red fruits. Nothing truly intense, but it's there. Medium finish. Now this finish definitely is much longer. I actually might even call it a long finish because I'm still tasting it. And there's this flavor, one flavor, and almost kind of the aroma too, that I just can't pinpoint. But again, maybe it's a bit of wood that I'm tasting, but it's not overpowering. Like I said, it's there's a bit of tree, I guess, tree and leaf in there, so greenness. But this is a wine that I would definitely, if I saw it out in the store or if I was back at the winery, I'd buy another bottle. I'd give it a 90. Excellent wine. for my kind of palate, what I like. As we know, I tend to gravitate towards the earthy, mineral type of wines rather than the fruit-forward wines. And I'm not talking fruit bombs, okay? Because fruit bombs are just kind of a different thing in and of themselves for me. But tasty. I'd recommend both, though I like the palate a little bit better. And visit them if you're in the hill country, the northern part of the hill country. Stop by and check them out. As always, go to the website, click the links, donate. Leave comments. That's one thing. No one's really leaving comments. So leave some comments. Come to the website. Let me know what you like, what you don't like. And we're going to see everybody again next time.